game. It's going to be a really exciting game. We've got Roy Oswalt, Brad Lidge, Dan Wheeler, Will Harris, and of course the pitching ninja who also goes by Rob Friedman. But a really, really exciting game for you guys tonight. Again, at this moment, we do have Roy and Brad. I don't know if they want to say hi real quickly to their fans. Okay. We'll get them to talk later. It's fine. But we do want to remind you guys that if you guys are a VIP, you'll notice that there is a call out next to your name. So if you have a question, just put it in the chat and I will make sure to call on you guys to ask those questions. Of course, if you don't have, VIP next to your name, you will still be able to ask those questions. Just make sure that they are in the chat box, and then I'll be able to ask them for you. So if you guys are joining us from Facebook Live or Twitch, you'll still have time to join us live. You just go to let'shang.live to register, or just sit back and enjoy the rest of this show. So if you guys have not been to a hang before, this will run through about the first half of the game. So make sure to make the most of your time here, take advantage and ask all the questions that you guys have. We'll also have later in this call, we'll have some trivia questions presented by Academy Sports and Outdoors. We'll have some gift cards and then, of course, some autographed baseballs as well. So, yeah, again, a really, really exciting night for you guys ahead. So, Roy and Brad, and then Pitching Ninja, if you guys want to say something to your fans.
What's up, guys?
What's up, everybody?
I was just checking out Megan Thee Stallion's first pitch.
I love it. I love Megan. Who doesn't love Megan? All right, so guys, first question: who do you guys think is gonna win today?
Well, I will take. I'll take the Astros. I pretty sure I'm going to be taking them all year long. I think they're going to be repping the AL in the World Series again this year. So, yeah, I got to go that path.
All right, Roy.
I'm going to say the Astros also. I think with Altuve out, though, it's going to be a little bit more of a closer ball games than it would be before. But Astros.
Should I be different? I'm happy to take.
Yeah.
I mean, they got the White Sox have Dylan Cease going for them. I'm happy to be contrary, but the Astros have the best team in the AL.
I think yeah, sorry, I was just gonna say I think Framber is the most probably underrated pitcher in Major League Baseball. So it's gonna be a great matchup between the two.
I totally agree with you. I think he's way underrated.
Really? So I wanted to get your guys' opinion. What do you guys think about these pitchers today?
I think it's going to be a good matchup. Both guys, they pound the strike zone, go after hitters. The hitters, just coming out of spring training, opening day is going to be a little bit amped up. So I think, it's going to be in favor of the pitchers for sure.
I'll tell you what, it is nice to see Rocket right now on ESPN. Obviously a teammate of Roy and I's for a while, and it's good to see him make an appearance. Still got the frosted tips, which is nice, and looking good, sharp.
How big of a competitor was he?
I mean, Roy, you can speak to this as every bit as much as I can, but yeah, I think that's one of the things that separated him is, he had the ability to will things to happen out there when he was pitching. He needed a double play ball. He'd figure out a way to get it. He needed a strikeout. He'd figure out a way to get it. And he'd get pretty amped up if things didn't go his way. So yeah, he'd compete with the best of them.
Yeah. Pretty much the day he's pitched, you didn't get around him. He was on a different level. He had his own little area behind the dugout that he went into, and we call it the cave, the bat cave, and he was intense, big time.
I love it. I love it. All right. It looks like we have our first question from a VIP, Anthony B. If you want to turn on your camera.
My camera will pop on in a second. I'm Wi-Fiing from a hotel. But maybe I could just ask the question while I'm dialing up.
Sure.
Roy,
Yeah, go
huge
right.
fan. Brad, you guys are, I followed you guys through the early 2000s and all that. But you threw a combined no-hitter at Yankee Stadium, and some champagne shows up in the locker room. The New York paper said it was Steinbrenner, and somebody else said it wasn't. So what's the real story? Thanks a lot.
I was always told that Steinbrenner sent it over, but someone told me, recently that actually our clubhouse secretary, Barry Waters, actually bought it for us. So I don't really know. For 15 years, I thought Steinbrenner bought it.
Yeah, Roy, it's funny you said that because I thought the same thing for a while too, and I heard Barry Waters also was the one that actually did it. And somebody actually asked Steinbrenner that, and I think he said you'd have to be crazy to think I'm going to buy champagne for a team coming in here and no hitting my team. So I don't think that was the case.
All right. And then it looks like we have another question from Chuck C. Chuck, if you don't mind putting on your camera for us.
Hey there. All right. Think we're good?
Oh, there we go. All right. We got it.
All right. Hey, Roy and Brad, so great to have you on here. It's a very cool opportunity. Because of this being a media thing, remember seeing you a lot of times at Disney Wide World of Sports and doing the Disney shows with Milo Hamilton every spring. You couldn't get away with being there in March, and at least one of you guys would be there. We miss Milo. I was just wondering if you had a quick story you could share about Milo, since he was such a legend in broadcast.
Yeah, Milo was a special guy. He was from day one that I came up. Big part of the organization. Big part of coming up with a nickname for me. Just an extraordinary guy. He would be on all the plane flights in between cities and stuff. Just a great guy to hang out with. But I miss Milo too. He was an unbelievable voice for the Astros for a long time.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the one thing for me that always stood out with Milo is he just he really seemed to his mind was just so dialed in until the very end. I mean, he really just could remember a lot of things in the same way I think that Vince Scully could. And obviously, Vince Scully is one of the greatest of any sport we've ever seen. But I think Milo was just sharp as a tack for a really long time, and that was always really impressive to me. He never seemed to forget anything. He never seemed to miss anything, and you could never really get anything by him either. He was he saw it. He saw things from all angles.
Thanks for sharing. That's awesome. Thanks, guys.
All right. And I just want to remind everybody, if you guys are a VIP, to make sure to put your cameras on and then put your question in the chat, and I'll be sure to call on you. And even if you're not a VIP, just put your question in the chat. I'll be sure to ask it for you guys. So I wanted to ask all of you guys, what is your take on what Shohei Ohtani has done for the game of baseball? Obviously, he just helped Japan win the World Baseball Classic, such a special talent. But what do you guys think he's done for the game of baseball and what he can do in the future?
Who wants it?
Go ahead, Brad.
It's all you.
All right. Well, I mean, just from covering him as much as we do and talking about him as much as we do on my radio show, I just think he's at this point, We heard that 97.4% of all TVs in Japan were watching him pitch that final inning in the World Baseball Classic. And when you can bring in an entire country, you're doing some incredible things for not just your country, but for baseball in general and for the sport. I think to be honest, we should all be pretty damn grateful about that because it's not just a marketing tool for baseball. It's one of the best ways that we can advertise the sport, but the individuals playing as well. So he's going to set records. He's going to get MVPs. He's a unicorn and he does freakish things out there. But I think, for the game of baseball itself, the fact that he's as humble as he is, the fact that he's as willing to participate in things as he is, I know Rob Manfred, rightly so, is in love with him because he's basically saying, let me know what I can do and I can help out and I'll do what I can for MLB in the game. So I think we're all very fortunate to have him right now doing what he's doing for baseball.
I love it.
I agree. I think, people don't really realize what this guy can do to be able to play both sides of the ball the way he does. I mean, pitching in games and being a starting pitcher, what you require your body to go through, and then to be able to come back the next day and be able to play, on the field, hit DH or play in, position, whatever he needs to do. I mean, that's pretty tremendous. And if he can withstand doing what he's doing for, 10 to 15 years, it's going to be amazing, what he comes up with. And he's going to set records nobody's going to be able to compete with.
How cool was it to end the WBC with that too? It was like him just establishing himself as the best baseball player in the world by that.
The funny thing about the baseball classic, I got to play in it in 2010, and it was just kind of first coming out, and we didn't take it as serious, I guess you'd say, as the guys take it now. It's kind of grown a lot. The guys from different countries, they really love, going out there and wearing their country jersey, and they're trying to treat it like an Olympics experience. I've got to play for the Olympics also in 2000. It was pretty tremendous to, support your country and actually represent your country. So you're getting some of that now with the baseball classic. These guys are really, putting forth an effort way more than it was when it first started. Now it's, they're going, 110%, trying to win it for their country.
So Roy, and because there's something interesting with Roy and I, we were coming through the Astros minor league system together, and having a great time doing it. But Roy was he was a lot healthier than I was, and he was throwing at a super high level, so he got to be on that Olympic team. I was always super jealous of that. And the first time I got to rep our country was the 06 World Baseball Classic, and we actually lost to Japan by 1 run as well. And Roy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know if you guys lost to Japan that year, but they also won it that year as well. And
yes.
I think the other interesting thing is that they have really put their stamp on. Those guys play together a lot more often and stuff, but that is a really tough team to beat. Even if we're marching out some of our best, they play baseball the right way there, and they've been really impressive.
I think also it's a little bit. I'm not going to say it's in their advantage by no means, but their season, I think, kind of lines up, kind of coming close to. They're not out of shape as much as the major league guys are coming into it, because you get about a week of spring training, and the next thing you know, you're in the WBC and you're trying to go 100%. Well, these guys are kind of falling into it through their season and getting to play kind of right into it. So it's not really an advantage, I guess you'd say, but I guess you're more in shape going into it than the guys are coming out of spring training. It's really tough to leave home, in January and then going 100%, February, 20th, trying to get, hitters out and everything's on the line. It's a tough job. Not, you get six weeks of spring training for a reason, to get ready for the season. When you get thrown out there in 2 weeks, it's pretty tough. I try to do at the end of my career, I try to do well, I didn't do it on purpose, but I was at home, and next thing I know, the phone rang, and I'm playing, mid-season for the Rangers and mid-season for the Rockies, and try to go out there and amp it up within 3 or 4 weeks. And next thing I know, I'm 5 weeks. I'm standing on a big league mound, and I've thrown 3 games. That's tough to do.
Mm-hmm. Rob, I wanted to get your insights as well on who you think are some of the more underrated pitchers in the league right now.
Well, I mean, underrated. One of the guys we just mentioned is Frember is very
Right.
underrated to me. I think the Mariners have a pretty underrated staff with Kirby and Gilbert. I mean, Kirby may be one of the most underrated pitchers out there. I mean, if you love pitching, you'd love watching him pitch, but I think he's not a household name yet. So I'd put him up there.
Okay, very cool. Who do you think we should be looking out for?
Oh, and another one. I mean, the Astros have a couple. Astros also have Javier. Christian Javier is filthy and doesn't get nearly the credit he deserves, I think.
Yeah. All right. Lots of questions coming in. Let's see. Let's go to Tamara Marie B. I hope I'm saying that right. Tamara. So could you please put your camera on, and then you can ask your question. Tamara Marie B. If you're still with us. Okay, well, she asked, which team do you guys like the most, and which one is the favorite that you guys played for? Which one was your favorite? I guess if you guys want to say who a favorite was.
I'll go first. Brad and I, we actually played pretty much for the same team, except for the last 2 I played for, I think. But Houston would be my favorite, probably just because I came through the minor leagues. I got to play with the guys for 4 years in the minor leagues, and then another 10 years in the big league. So you kind of grow, together. You're 19, 20 years old. And, you get to play with the guys from right out of college all the way until, 10 years later. Philly was awesome. Philly was awesome. I got to go there toward the end of my career, and great city, great baseball. People love the sport there. We sold out every night for the 2 years that I was with them. Brad was there for 2 years before me, or 3 years before me, but just great baseball there. The other 2 places I played, I only got to be there 3 or 4 months, so it wasn't really like I got to experience the whole experience. The other 2 teams.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll second that. Coming through the minor league system with Roy with Houston, it was that's all you knew. So that's your home, that's your family. Those are your teammates. Those are the guys you come through with. So for me, some of my best friends in the game, come from both Houston and Philly, but, Houston becomes that first spot. So you're always going to, have the most memories. And for me, I played there a longer time than Philly, but obviously, like if I was going to single out a team, for me, the 08 Phillies was a pretty remarkable experience. Just a hell of a lot of great ball players. And, we were able to win the World Series the way we did. But, it's funny. That might not always necessarily be your favorite team. But I happen to have a lot of good relationships with the guys in that bullpen as well, along with, I know Dan Wheeler will be here in a little bit with us, but, he's one of my good friends, obviously, in Houston. So, bullpen guys are a little bit different. Like we're kind of isolated during the game for, the whole thing. And so we kind of have our own little group of buddies down there, and we stay in touch and everything else. But, yeah, just for me, it's like my first memories of professional baseball are all tied to Houston. And then obviously, you get I was fortunate enough to kind of get that pinnacle in Philly with just some great players out there. And then, again, I got to play with Roy and Hunter Pence. So, some of the guys in Houston that eventually made their way to Philly as well.
I love it. I love it. All right, let's try to get another question in. This one's from Stephen Vaughn H. Stephen, it looks like you're a VIP, so if you don't mind putting on your camera so you can ask your question. Stephen, if you're still with us, Stephen Vaughn. All right, I'll try asking this question. So, oh wait,
I'm trying to put it on.
there we go. All right, we got you, Stephen.
So, Brad, what was going through your mind before that last out of the 2008 World Series?
So before that, well, first of all, it had been a long season, so it would have been a hell of a time to blow my first save. So that was some of those negative thoughts that can float in your mind. You try and push them away, but honestly, I think the way the season had gone the entire year, I had a real good feeling that it would work out. I mean, there were times during the course of the season where we'd have a 1-run lead and a guy would hit a leadoff triple and somehow get out of it. So I was feeling confident that we had two outs with a runner on second base, and Eric Hinsky, who had actually hit the only time I ever faced him in my career, hit a double off the wall off of me, and on a fastball. So Carlos Ruiz came out, Charlie Manuel came out, our pitching coach Rich Doobie came out. We all met on the mound. All the infielders came in, and they were like, what are you going to do here? And I said, last time I faced this guy, he waffled me and hit one off the wall. And everyone was looking at me like, that's not what we wanted to hear. But, I told him, I was like, that means what I'm going to do is just keep throwing him sliders until he's out. And so that, Carlos Ruiz never even had to put down a finger. It was just going to be all sliders until he was out. So that's what we did. And it ended up working out, thank God.
That's awesome. Thanks for that wonderful ride, man. That was awesome.
Right on, man. Yeah, good time.
All right, thank you, Stephen. Next up, we have Lauren A. Lauren, I think you've got more than one question. So if you don't mind putting on your camera, and then you can ask whatever you want.
Okay. Let's see. Okay. I'm going to do the minor league route. So it was Roy. You were inducted into the Round Rock Express Hall of Fame up in Round Rock. Do either of you? Congratulations, by the way. Do you either of you plan on attending any minor league baseball games this upcoming season? And that would probably be my question. Like, I know sometimes they'll have like player what do you want to call it, like special events where the players can like interact with the fans and stuff. And it's nice to see some of the major league players who used to play in the minors for a little bit. They come back to those stadiums and interact with the fans, because I know you're always wondering like who's going to make it out of the minors back into the majors and the farm. So that's the question that I have.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, these depending on, who it is, Round Rock or, A-ball team or something like that, they call us back to do, a special thing or whatever. Round Rock's always been great about getting the guys back. I haven't heard anything this year going on, but, sometimes it's out of the blue. You get a call and say, hey, can you come next month for a scan or whatever. I don't know if I'm going to be in Texas, anytime soon, but like I said, you never know. Sometimes you get a call and 2 weeks later you're out there. So it could.
Yeah, I would say that right now I don't have any plans on doing it, but I'm with Roy. Like, if we get a call and we can round up some of us fellow, former teammates to hang out for a little bit, that'd be a good time. So I'd be up for it.
And then Lauren, I think you had another question if you want to ask something else.
Okay, so I'm also part of the MLS Center Circle. I'm a big fan of Austin FC. They're in their third year this year. So they like to, again, they asked, I think they'll kind of branch off from just Major League Soccer. They'll go into other sports. So some of the questions they had on that platform were, what was your favorite moment of the World Baseball Classic tournament this past, earlier this year? And then it even went into Edwin Diaz, who I haven't really done much research on. Do you think that the World Baseball Classic should exist? And then the other question they had put to the fans were, how can you balance the risk of injury with the intense passion that seems to be missing from most Major League Baseball games? But you got to remember, Major League Baseball has just so many games in a season that it's just a very long season. It's probably I would say one of the sports that has the most games in a regular season. That, of course, it's very hard. It feels like a marathon. It's not just a quick sprint. It starts in the spring training in early March, April, and then you're going all the way to October, and you don't really get much of a break. You're doing 2 to 3 games in a series, each homestand or away game series. And it's just, to me, I just think it's very taxing on the players. How do you make sure to fill up your baseball stadiums each time? I know Midwest, Cubs, Cardinals, Brewers, Red Sox, even up in Northeast, any of those major baseball cities, they don't seem to have too much difficulty bringing that energy. But again, you have all these other teams across the United States, and again, if your team's not winning, it's going to be very difficult to fill up those stadiums. Texas Rangers, we've had that quite often. It's been, it's difficult, but unfortunately, that's my team.
Go ahead, Brad. I'll let you take this one.
Yeah. Trying to remember the first part of the question. I think what was the favorite moment of the World Baseball Classic? The Phillies just signed Trey Turner, shortstop, to a huge contract, and I think for me, seeing him, go out there and hit 4 home runs. I don't know. I think that grand slam that helped USA win a little bit earlier in the World Baseball Classic was a huge moment, and great individual moment for him. I think that was probably the coolest moment that I saw. But this past year, it had been 6 years since we had a World Baseball Classic. So we had a lot of people that were excited for this. Plus, when you get, out of that first round and it's a do or die. I mean, in Major League Baseball, when we had the one or out wild card scenario where, you win or go home, everyone's watching those games. It's really tough to recreate, that kind of urgency and that kind of excitement in any series in baseball, let alone 162 games. So I'm not sure you can recreate that. But, that being said, I don't know. I think baseball is trying to make a lot more action happen and hopefully produce a lot more excitement. I think I saw a question about the rule changes somewhere in there, but it's going to make the action a little bit tighter this year, and it'll make the games a little bit more exciting. I think MLB is going to at least achieve what it wants by having quicker games, more action, more stolen bases potentially, and the balls put in play and everything else. So we'll see what happens. But I guess my short answer is you can't recreate drama of 6 years waiting for a World Baseball Classic and then having, a win or go home scenario.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think they could have drawn up that last out any better of the World Baseball. I'd actually, I talked to the MLB guys, some of the front office guys about that. I was like, how did you get that? How did you set it up that you were going to have Mike Trout versus Shohei Ohtani, 2 teammates, great players, face off against each other? And said, you wouldn't believe the conspiracy that was involved in that. We had to convince everybody to set it up that way. On the Diaz question, though, that was a celebration. So, I mean, it's hard. You have people get injured in spring training. You have people get injured all over the place. I don't think Diaz would have second thoughts about playing. He wanted to represent his country. And, again, it was a kind of a freakish type injury.
Yeah.
Stinks.
Yeah.
All right. So I know Tino T has been trying to ask a question. If you want to turn your camera on.
Thank you. I actually got about 3 questions. If you don't mind me asking them.
Yeah, ask away.
My first question is, what do you feel about Major League Baseball teams actually just going by prospects now, in young kids, give them a chance instead of paying someone $30 million or $40 million a year? Because I see that's been changing a lot through the years since you guys been playing. Instead of paying someone like 150 with major contracts.
Yeah. Roy, I'll
missed
keep
some
it
of
quick.
that.
And
Yeah.
go ahead, Roy.
I didn't hear the whole question. My screen froze.
Okay.
I
think I heard it. I think I heard it, Tino, at least well enough to. I think we're seeing both ends, and just because we talk about this all the time on a radio show, but like we are seeing guys get record-breaking contracts, but we're seeing certain teams get those. I don't want to call them prospects, but guys that have come up and proven that they can play in Major League Baseball for a year or two, and giving them some contracts before the numbers get out of control and the money gets out of control. But there's nobody better at that than the Rays and the Atlanta Braves right now. But the Astros trying a little bit as well, and I think it's a trend that's here to stay. Trying to sign those guys and lock them up early, and they don't have to pay them nearly as much. It's still, with the amount of money getting tossed around these days, it's still going to cost the team a little bit. But young players, I mean, Roy can maybe not attest to this as much as I can, because Roy was always super healthy and he was always, logging 200 innings the second he got to the major leagues. But for somebody like myself, if they would have offered me a contract early in my career, I would have taken it, because I had a bunch of injuries in the minor leagues, and that would have been really appealing. So there's always that aspect of it for young players coming up. It feels like the future is really uncertain, and you'd always take some money if it's thrown at you.
My second question is, honestly, what do you feel about the major changes they're going through Major League? Like now they putting more rules. Like now they have the no shift going on. Now the second base, I think it's the second base now, like head start, where you got a runner base now. What you all feel like that? Because the Major League it's been changing a lot since what you guys been playing, right?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing what they're trying to do is since the game has shifted back to the pitchers, since they got a lot of the guys gotten smaller, I guess you'd say. The game's kind of shifted toward the pitchers a lot more, so they're trying to create more offense and more runs. They're trying to please the fans, I guess you'd say, making the bases bigger, so maybe we get a couple more guys still in the base. Maybe a few more guys safe through the year, so to add more runs to the games. That no shift, they're trying to give guys a little bit of more advantage to get on. The way I look at it as a pitcher, they're trying to take away as much advantage that the pitcher has to try to put it back into the batter's category. And none of that stuff. I mean, some of that shift stuff. I never liked anyway, because there were certain ways I like guys to try to get guys out, make them hit it certain ways. Getting everybody on the other side of the bag was sometimes it is a good thing and sometimes a bad thing. Sometimes you get a scribber that goes down the third baseline that should have been an out that ends up being a hit. But the thing is the hitting philosophy now is to hit the ball out of the park, is elevate. Try to hit the ball in the air. When we played, the whole thing was hit through the ball, try to hit the ball on a line, or hit the ball on the ground, or keep the ball out of the air. Well, the game has changed so much with guys trying to hit the home run. That's the reason the batting averages are bad or worse than they've been in a long time. The strikeouts are up because the guys are trying to elevate the ball every time. And there's nobody, if I, fifth or sixth guy or seventh guy in the lineup, and they're going to shift on me, I just bunt it down third and get me a single every time. Lance Berkman was the best at it. They would shift on him. He would bunt down third and get him a single, And everybody's like, why are you bunting? You know, you should hit a home run. He goes, I hit 35 home runs a year. I'm not going to hit a home run every time I get up to the plate. I'd rather get on the base and then somebody hit a 2-run shot, and now we got 2 runs instead of 1. So, you know, sometimes you have to take yourself and your numbers out of it and start thinking about the team more. That's just my opinion.
But Tino, I know you said you have. Tino, I'm sorry. I know you have one more question, but I did want to quickly say I know Pitching Ninja has to leave soon, and then we just got Dan Wheeler and Will Harris on the call. So, Rob, if you have any questions to ask them, please ask away.
Well, I was going to ask about some breaking ball grips from Roy and Brad and Dan and everybody. So, just so everybody can see what your thought process is when you're throwing them. We'll start with Roy, maybe.
I threw 2 different. Yeah, I threw 2 different breaking balls, curveballs. I threw 2 different curveballs. I threw one that was a spike curveball if I wanted to throw it, you know, 80, 81 miles an hour, somewhere in that neighborhood. And then I really choked the grip on my slower curveball. I put it real far back in my hand. Really concentrate about the 12-6 spin. You know, my whole thing was if I could keep it on the same plane going toward the plate, but also kill 30 miles per hour off the pitch. You know, guys are not, they can't sit back, because I could throw hard enough where you had to sit on fastball. You know, you're sitting on 95 and you get 70. You know, you're going to be out in front of it. So I wouldn't say I was just a great strikeout pitcher. I was all about trying to get a guy out front and try to get a ground ball. If I could get into the 7th inning with 90 pitches, that's what I was looking for, because I wanted to go deep in the game. They don't teach that now. They teach throw hard as you can to 5 innings. We'll get the bullpen in. But my whole thing was to try to get into the 8th and 9th inning. And all the guys, you can ask Brad, you know, they're like, hey, give us 9 today. Give us 9 today. So, you know, that was the whole.
So Brad could just chill out there. Yeah.
Yeah, put my feet up.
They usually pick up a bunch of innings.
Exactly.
But I threw a hard one when I wanted to throw it hard by spiking it, you know, like this, and then I threw one. I choked it really deep in my hand to knock the speed off of it, but still have the same plane on it.
And did you
know
ever
spin rate?
Oh.
Go ahead. Spin rate has been around. They talk about spin rate, but I mean, we did the same thing. It just wasn't measured back then.
That's right.
You know, my whole thing was to spin it as hard as I could spin it, but we didn't have a camera that could tell you how many times it's, you know, spun over or whatever. But it's always been there.
Yeah. You know, coming through the minor leagues with Roy, it's funny because that curveball he threw that was about 30 miles an hour off of his fastball. We actually had our minor league pitching coordinator at the time, Dewey Robinson, who I have a lot of respect for, and he helped me a ton. Yeah, I used to throw a curveball, and he taught me my slider. But he always used to say, he's like, oh, that curveball that Roy throws, that's not going to work in the major leagues because it's too slow. And we were always like, what do you mean it's too slow? He's like, oh, the hitters will reload on it, and they'll be able to hit it. And obviously come to find out that that actually was not the case, that the curveball Roy threw, obviously hitters just couldn't sit. I mean, you can't sit back that much. And they had to respect Roy's, mid-upper 90s fastball. So I don't know. I always thought that was funny, but Roy spun the hell out of it. But I mean, I was kind of the same way with my slider. I basically had two. One, I try and throw early in the count for a strike, and I would spin it. I would just try and keep kind of a tight form on it and have it be more of a traditional slider early in the count, and just try and get it in there for a strike. And then as soon as I got ahead of the hitter, because I knew if I could show them one for a strike, they're way more apt to swing at the second one. And so the second one I threw, I would just try and go down about, vertically about a foot and try and start it over home plate and really try and get over the top of it and really just try and make it have, that top spin on it instead of the traditional slider spin, which I might throw early. I try and throw that harder one with more spin late in the count, 0-2-1-2. And, I see a lot of guys today try and throw in, a slider that starts on the outer part of the plate and breaks away. But hitters, a lot of times, if they're throwing away to a fastball, then they throw a slider away. The hitters will sometimes take it. But if you can throw a slider that starts, I always tell this to guys I've still coach, high school or college or whatever. But if you can start a slider that starts just across the knees and you can get on top of it a little bit more and make it have that vertical action, the hitter will commit to it because they're not thinking, as much about diving away and maybe holding up. They're thinking, if he's attacking me at the bottom of the zone with a fastball, I've got to swing. So I always kind of tried to have 2 of those as well.
Interesting. You made a great point on Roy's slower curve, because I know Devin Williams is airbender changeup, that one.
Yeah.
He was told in the minor leagues that wasn't going to play because it had too much spin on it. And it's probably the most deadly pitch in the major leagues. So.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. I don't think you can have too much spin, and I don't think you can take enough as long as your arm action is the same. I mean, with Roy's curveball, I used to see hitters so far out on their front foot, they literally would just kind of throw their bat at Roy's curveball. By the time it got to home plate, they had nothing left. It was just all front foot.
I think the biggest thing, on all those pitches is I could understand if the curveball went up first when it comes out of your hand to get to the plate. So guys are going to recognize it going up. But if you can keep that straight, straight action on your curveball, where when it comes out of your hand, you think fastball, and then all of a sudden you think, oh, it's curveball. You just can't. When you start slowing your body down, and you have to kind of melt on your front side, you have no power. So all I'm trying to do is get him hit it off the end of the bat, get me a ground ball, first, second pitch, or whatever, and I'm out. I'm out in and quick, 7 or 10 pitches, and as when I first come up, nobody really knew about it, so I struck out a lot of guys early in my career. They couldn't sit back; they would swing at it, and it would be halfway there. But later in the career, I had to come out with a harder one to get guys kind of off of it late in accounts and stuff like that. I could throw it early and get a front pitch, quick pitch out, but later in the count, sometimes I'd come back with a hard one for a strikeout. Did your long stride help with getting the ball on people, make them have to make a decision quickly? Yes, I think my mechanics action going toward the plate really quick, kind of jumping at them, it kind of threw them off balance some. They was kind of antsy. And I think that's one of the reasons I didn't have a great slider too. My stride length was so far, it was really hard for me to get over the top of a slider and have a true, 1 to 7 slider like Brad had. I couldn't get that ball to go down. I could get it to go across, but I couldn't get it to go down. And I just used that slider as a, first pitch strike or something just to show it. I probably only threw it 10 or 12 times a game, but I relied on my fastball curveball to get guys out when I needed it.
I love it. Rob, do you have any other questions?
No, that was great. It was very useful.
Very cool. Okay. So again, I want to remind you guys that we have Will Harris and Dan Wheeler on the call here. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
What's up, Will?
I can add a little bit to the whole curveball thing, and because I threw 2 different ones. Well, not 2 different curveballs, but I threw a curveball and a slider, which I ended up turning my slider into a cutter. And the main thing is, it's that finger pressure that you have. For me, at least, was on the middle finger, and I would grip on the horseshoe. And just to kind of echo what Roy said, I mean, you gotta really make sure that you keep your arm speed up on the off speed, because and I do coach high school, and some of these kids think that they, just because it's an off speed pitch, they have to slow everything down. But the idea behind it is to keep your same arm speed going, and that's what's going to really fool and get that pitch to the best that you can. So I would always kind of think with my curveball, I would want to drive that my middle finger through the on the seam and just kind of pull it down between me and the catcher. So that was the
first pitch. Focus on getting through the baseball.
Michelle J, if you could please mute yourself. Thank you.
But yeah, dude, I do remember Roy's curveball, and the thing about Roy, he could just pick up a pitch. He was blessed, he'd play in the afternoon. And
I
All
really,
right, so
I want to ask you something real quick. What's going on, fellas? It's interesting that you put the ball deeper in your hand to take speed off, because Brent Strom actually put it deeper in my hand to add velocity. So like, because then my curveball was always like 78 to 80, and then he asked me actually to choke it a little bit more, and it actually added like 3 to 4 miles an hour once I came over to Houston. So
Wow.
very, very interesting for it to have opposite effects depending on the pitcher.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I felt like, I mean, to me, you know, your power fingers are your two first fingers to get velocity on the fastball to get force seam spin. So when anything that was further out, I could, you know, more power. But anytime I choked the ball, and it would kill the speed. Even on my changeup, for a long time, beginning of my career, I threw my changeup too hard. I throw at 87, and guys would hit a double down the line. Right-hand hitter hit a double down the line. I'm like, if I could get, you know, another 5 miles per hour off of it, and they tried to work with me about dragging my foot and killing speed that away and all that. That's hard to remember when you're in a game because you're trying to keep your mechanics exactly the same. So I actually did my changeup the same way. I actually moved 2 fingers over, and I choked it really far back with my last 2, my pinky finger and my other ring finger. And I started killing it to 80, 81, and I was getting a lot more, you know, swing over the top misses on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's cool.
all right, guys, I want to remind everybody that this call is made possible by Academy Sports and Outdoors. So a big thank you to them. And with the Astros coming off their World Series title, we want to ask the Hang team to please pull up a graphic, because I want to show you guys something pretty cool. So Academy is helping fans relive the excitement with the special edition Astros Gold collection gear that is available at Academy Sports and Outdoors beginning on April 1st. You can stop by your local Academy store or shop online at academy.com. So eventually we will get that graphic up for you. But again, you can find that at your local Academy store, or you can shop online for it. So yeah, they will have the special edition Astros Gold collection gear beginning on April 1st. And I want to ask the first trivia question that again is presented by Academy Sports and Outdoors again. So the first question is actually going to give the winner $100 Academy gift card. It looks just like this. And the first question is, what do Roy Oswalt, Brad Lidge, and Will Harris all have in common? Is it A, they all went to the same school, B, they pitched together for the Astros, C, they each were part of a combined no-hitter while in an Astros uniform, or D, they each hit a home run in their career? So again, you guys can get a $100 Academy gift card if you get this right. The question again is, what do Roy Oswalt, Brad Lidge, and Will Harris all have in common? Is it A, they all went to the same school, B, they pitched together for the Astros, C, they each were part of a combined no-hitter while in an Astros uniform, or D, they each hit a home run in their career? So the Hang support staff will contact the winner here. Oh, and it looks like we have a winner. It is Jose F. So congrats to Jose. You will be getting a $100 Academy gift card. Again, this entire call is presented by Academy Sports and Outdoors. So a big thank you to them. And later on, we'll be asking some more trivia questions. Dan and Roy have autographed some baseballs that we'll show you guys here in a little bit. But yeah, so Will and Dan, so I want to get your guys' thoughts on today's pitchers. Cease and Valdez, what do you guys think of the matchup?
So far, so good. What I'm looking at, I mean, looks like it's, you know, so far pitching duel. So haven't really had a chance to watch too much of it, but I do really like watching this guy pitch right here for the Astros. So he's a fun guy, Valdez, and I mean, I just enjoyed watching him pitch last year in the World Series too, in the playoffs. I mean, they made a great run, and I mean, honestly, he could be one of my favorite pitchers to go out there and enjoy. So.
Yeah, for me, it's really fun watching Fromber pitch. Got lucky enough to play with him for a couple of years in Houston, and to see him now as opposed to his first couple of years in the big leagues, and how well he controls the strike zone. That was kind of like the one thing that was missing for him early on. Like his sinker moves, his cutter moves, his curveball, everything is so dynamic that it was hard for him to actually like reel it in the zone. So you see what you get whenever he's dialed in with his command. And then Cease is a fun guy to watch. He's like the new age pitcher that has 99 in the tank and spins about 6 breaking balls per at bat. So it's he's the prototypical new age big league pitcher, where everybody has to go up there sitting on 97 up, and all he does is spin sliders and breaking balls. So it's a fun matchup because they're both of their stuffs are in the elite of the elite in Major League Baseball.
Absolutely. All right. So we got a question from Edward O. He is asking Brad, who was the funniest teammate you ever had?
Oh, it's definitely Dan Wheeler. He could rip a sink out of a wall. I'll tell you what. No, Wheels knows this. You get and obviously Will knows this well too. You get to really know your fellow bullpen guys, really well over the course of your career. And we had a few guys here and there. I think Qualls could be funny from time to time, Dan, but. I think for me, Ryan Madsen in Philly, he pretty much lost his mind long before I got there. And he had entire skits and routines he would do with the fans in Philly. And, he was always on. So I don't even know how he concentrated when he pitched. He was pretty nasty actually, but he was always on. He was always a comedian, and, he'd have a great time down there. So I think Ryan Madsen is the funniest teammate I ever had.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff I can't really say on air, I'm realizing at this point, but it's mostly, he was a funny dude.
Yeah, I love it. So I'm sure you guys had your pre-pitch routines. Obviously with the pitch clock kind of changing things, how would you guys adjust if you were playing today? This goes to anybody.
I wouldn't have to. I leave that to the other guys. I like the pitch clock because it sped the game. It speeds the game up. But most of my games was 2 hours and 30 minutes, so it was a pretty quick outing. I think it's going to help, for us the fans and stuff, because no one wants to sit through a 4-hour game. The only thing I hate is, sometimes there is times in a game where you're needing to slow the game down, especially if guys start getting hits. You're trying to slow the game down so it won't, get out of control, and it may mess with you some there. But other than that, I think it'll help out.
I think it's going to be good for the game. I think as a pitcher, and Roy was definitely one of those guys that just got on the mound and threw. You kind of dictate the pace of the game as a starting pitcher. And for me, I think that's the best part of it. You're walking around and your infielders and your outfielders are on their heels. They're not ready to make pitches or make plays for you. So I do think that will be definitely a good, I hate that there's an actual clock number on it, but I do think that at the end of the day, this will be the best of the game.
I got a little taste of it last year in AAA when I was rehabbing, and by the time I got there, it was like August. They had been doing it all year, and everybody seemed to like it. They all across the board hated it when it started. Tyler Clippard was down there, who's like notorious, one of the slowest workers like ever, and even he was like, it took me a while to get used to it, but once they get used to it, like everything else, it just kind of became second nature. So I think you'll hear a lot of the bickering and, things are going to happen. And it's going to be a shame if it determines an outcome of a game for sure. But I think they'll get used to it, just like anything else, just like the bullpen clock running in, warming up clock, all that kind of stuff. For some reason, all of the time constraints in baseball seem to always fall on the pitchers. But I like that the hitters are getting some accountability now with having to get in the box.
Yeah, I think it's going to be great for the game. I'm in that camp too, but it would have been tough for me. I know like when honestly, the first half of my career in Houston, I mean, I wanted to work quick. I wanted to get the ball and just let it eat and throw it as hard as I could. And it wasn't really until I was in Philly that I, kind of figured out how to pitch a little bit and slow things down and, pace myself in the ninth inning and walk around the mound and sometimes use hitters, aggression and their angst and their wanting to, be aggressive at the plate, use that against them a little bit and try and slow the inning down. It's interesting. I personally would love to see, the pitch clock come off in the ninth inning, just because I think the drama of the ninth inning and maybe ninth inning on after, I should say, is great for the game. I mean, when people are watching games on TV and that camera is panning around the stadium because the team is, that home team's on their last out or two. And, and the fans are, biting their fingernails and eating their hats. And I think it all kind of adds to the drama of late in the game. But, we're not going to have that now. The camera's going to have to get right back into the at-bat. The hitters are going to have to jump back in there. The pitcher's going to have to get back on the mound. So I think it takes away a little bit at the end of the game from the drama. But overall, I think it's a real good thing. I personally would have been in trouble, though. But I do like that you can only pick over to first base twice because I mean, I was a mess trying to throw her to first base. I hated it. And I didn't want any part of that anyways. And so I think only 2 picks over there. And basically, if guys got on base, I mean, Wheels, Roy, you know how it was. If they were going to steal against me, it was like, go ahead. Because I didn't really have any way of keeping him on first base anyway.
Typical closer, never.
Can I add something real quick?
Inning, right?
Man, he sounded just like John Lester. John Lester cannot throw nothing for base, nothing for the world. Even when the Cubs trying to teach him how to throw a base. So don't worry. You're not alone there.
Yeah.
All right. Tino, I know you had one more question, right?
Correct. I just have one question. That's about it.
All right, let's go. What do you got?
So how you guys feel when now that teams don't let the pitchers don't go all the way to the end, the start pitcher go all the way to the inning like they used to back in the day? Do you feel like this because of health concerns, pitchers being injured too much, or they getting too much junk surgeries or something? How you guys feel about that?
Roy loves it. Roy loves when guys come out after 4 or 5 innings. He loves it.
Man, it eats me alive. I can't take it. That's one of the reasons I watch a baseball game right now. Is these starting pitchers, going 4 innings, 5 innings, and then they're bringing in the bullpen already. And I know what the bullpen is saying when they're coming in the 5th and 6th inning. I've seen that before, but yeah, it's just I think that's one of the reasons the game's getting longer. Is the reason they're starting to do this pitch clock is because when you start changing, 6 or 7 pitchers a game, it's going to take some time to get guys in and out and get them ready, to go. So I don't understand why you can't condition yourself early before you start the season to be able to throw 120, 125 pitches, 35 times a year. These guys are so dependent now on the bullpen. They're putting these guys in the 5th and 6th inning in the game, and these starters are throwing 180 innings. Our whole thing as a starting pitcher was to try to go a year to be able to keep the bullpen fresh for the playoff run. So now, the major league is trying to come out with a rule where, we add more pitchers just to have more pitchers in the bullpen so that we can eat up more innings, with another guy in the bullpen. And you don't have to do that if you condition yourself in the off season for it. There's still guys that go out there and throw 200 innings, but most of those guys are older. And I think you're going to a trend where, most of these guys are looking at 180 innings. I heard a pitcher from New York, I think it was Nestor from New York, say that his goal was to throw 33 starts and throw 150 innings, or 30 starts and 150 innings. I'm thinking that's 5 starts in a game. I mean, well, why wouldn't your goal be, 210 innings in 30 starts? Because now you're in the game 7 innings every time, and you're giving yourself a chance to win more. You'll never win 20 games throwing 5 innings a game, because you win games late. You win games in the 7th and 8th inning. So if your goal is only throw 5 innings, you're going to be a 10 win pitcher. You'll never be a 20 game winner.
Feel like
I do appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
Just a little bit more on that as a starter. I mean, Roy, I know, took pride, and there's a lot of guys. We had a great rotation back in 04, 05 with Roger and others, and they took pride in going out games and trying to finish games, and and give the bullpen a day off. I know they're the metrics part of it, whatever. I don't completely understand all that, but the third time through the lineup. But I mean, if you're looking at the playoff series, they're seeing guys all the time. But I mean, if you're constantly going to the bullpen, you're exposing those guys even more than you're exposing starters. You might need some of those guys to get some big outs late in the game. And if these guys have already seen us, in a short series, we can't make up new pitches as we're going along. So I mean, sometimes you don't want to overexpose the bullpen too. So that's where a starter come in, a Verlander or a Scherzer, these guys that are active right now. I mean, 7, 8, 9 innings. I mean, it's unfortunately a dying art, but I do think there is some value to that. And like Roy said, it's all about conditioning yourselves. I mean, if you look at the history of baseball, it's gone down. I mean, I had a pitching coach, Joe Coleman, in AAA Durham. I mean, he used to throw 288 to 300 innings a year. I mean, they started before 3 to 4 days. I mean, because they were conditioned to do it. And there's no reason why to say that they get a lot more money than they are now. Still, if you condition yourself, I don't see why you couldn't.
I think there's another aspect too, because Wheels and Will can attest to this too. They used to come out and throw multiple innings out of the pen all the time, and I think more and more we're seeing relievers not be conditioned to do that either. So there's just a wave of being really delicate with pitchers in general. I don't know how many times, Wheels, we had to throw 3-4 days in a row, but that's just unheard of anymore. Even getting a guy up to do that, is you just don't see it that much anymore. So I actually think what ends up happening is that you end up getting starters that know they only have to throw 5 innings. And because of that, they're going to go out there and they're going to let it eat, because, why save anything for later in the game? You're not going to be in later in the game. And I think we actually see more injuries now because of that, because they're trying to throw 110% for 4 or 5 innings instead of pitching at 90%, getting deeper into the game. And maybe that's less tax on your arm. But it's just all about injury prevention and trying to keep guys off the injured list anymore. It's kind of too bad to see, but it's just part of the evolution of the game.
I would also add on that too. It's definitely, I think it's a personality trait, that obviously Roy possesses, and wanting every day that he starts to actually go out and win the game. And I think it's something you see less and less of now than you did 10, 15 years ago. I think a big part of that is this is going to get a little in the weeds, but the showcase ball stuff, kids they're growing up just trying to go out and show what they can do, strike as many guys they can, throw as hard as they can for 2 or 3 innings. And they don't quite understand the concept of I need you to go 7 today and win the game. It's just not something that they're really asked to do. Even in the minor leagues, they're controlling their innings the second that they sign. You see a lot of these rookies in the first couple of years in the big league guys, the same thing. They're on an innings limit. So I just think it's something that a lot of these young players have never been asked really to do. And it's a shame, because I know a lot of the older players that I played with, like you're talking about with the Verlanders and the Scherzers and guys like that, the Garrett Coles, these guys are going out to win the game, and they're going to stay in the game as long as they can to accomplish that. And I just think that kind of gets lost with some of the younger players.
All right. Thank you to Tino for asking all your questions. Really appreciate it. I want to get another trivia question in here. Again, this call is presented by Academy Sports and Outdoors, and they are part of this call's trivia questions as well. So let's get to it. How many left-handed pitchers are on today's hang? Is it A, 0, B, 1, C, 2, D, 3? Again, how many left-handed pitchers are on today's hang? A, 0, B, 1, C, 2, or D, 3? And you can put those answers in the chat box. Our hang support team will be contacting the winner. Oh, it looks like Servando R is our winner. So yeah, the answer to that is 0. Yeah, again, we will have more trivia questions throughout this call. We will be giving away an autographed ball from Dan Wheeler and Roy Oswalt. Dan, I think you actually have a baseball with you right now that you can sign for us, right?
Absolutely. I'd be more than happy to. So I'll sign it right here from Academy Sports. So there it is. I don't know. Maybe it's upside down. I don't know.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much for that. I also wanted to get a question in from Tom R. If you want to turn your camera on.
Hey guys. So Roy and Brad, I know you guys got to go soon. I just had a quick question for you guys, which is Roy, Brad, and Dan. You all pitched to Brad Ausmus when you were Houston. And obviously, I've always thought catchers would probably make the best managers. But from your experience, being a teammate and battery mate with him, did you see it at the time that he'd kind of have managerial chops? And obviously, he's not managing a team right now, but do you think he's going to go on and have a solid managerial career?
Who wants? I always thought Brad was, we would always get those questionnaires or something like, who do you think's player that could be a manager someday? And I always wrote down Brad Austin. I just felt like he's got a great baseball IQ. He was able to manage to keep us under control, especially us bullpen guys out there. So he did a great job of managing the game, as a catcher. And there was no doubt that I thought that he was going to be, and he still could be one of the, a great asset to a team. So.
Yeah, I agree with that. He certainly, knew how to take control of the team when he was, behind the plate, can take control of all the pitchers. And, I think just his first run as a manager with the Tigers, I just, from what I saw, he ran into a lot of bad luck. A lot of guys came over and, it's not easy to pitch out of the bullpen, but he had some real talented guys there that just maybe didn't, for whatever reason, didn't have their best seasons out there in Detroit. And I think, he just kind of got stuck with a rough year or two. I don't think that reflects negatively on him as a manager, though. I think he absolutely knows what he's doing. And when he kind of had a couple years in and the game started pivoting to even younger dudes for a little bit, I think it wasn't, the most beneficial thing for him. But I know he's still trying to manage. I know he's still trying to get involved with front offices, and I think he's great for the game of baseball in some capacity. But he's smart enough to do either thing. He could be a general manager, which he interviewed for this winter, or he could be a regular manager on the field and take control. He could do either one well.
I thought Carlos Beltran would have been a great guy, and some things went wrong with him on the first job he got offered. But I always thought he was a guy that really knew the game well. He spoke both languages, which is great in the big leagues today. He could communicate real good with the guys, and real humble guy, knew the game well. I thought he would be a great one.
Awesome. Tommy, thank you so much. Appreciate that question. I know Brad and Roy have to leave us, so thank you guys so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.
Good questions. It's a lot of fun. See you guys.
See you, Dan.
All right.
See you, Will.
Later, fellas.
See you guys. Take care, fellas.
All right, thanks, guys. Stefan G, it looks like you had a question that you wanted to ask, so just turn on your camera for us and ask away.
Hi there. Well, it was gonna be for them that just left, but it's fine. It's all right.
No.
It's all right. Well, I'll pivot to Mr. Dan Wheeler because I was a huge fan of the Astros in 2004 and 2005, and I was kind of gonna ask them, Brad and them about going to another team like the Phillies and having success. But I know Dan went to the Devil Rays, which turned into the Rays, and they made the World Series in 2008 and against the Phillies. I was just curious about that experience from like, for one, I would love to know like your experience of the time in 2004 and 2005 during those seasons, because it's not just that they made the playoffs, but in both years they were like had to come back and come all the way back and make the playoffs on the last day. And then in 2006 they almost did that same thing again, which was incredible. But like to go from that and then to go to another organization that also had went from pretty much rags to riches. So just that kind of experience of going from one organization to another during their peaks, their new peaks like that.
Well, so I got traded to the Astros from the Mets in 2004. It was at the end of August, so it was like a waiver wire deal. And I remember we were 7 games out and of the wild card, and it was, I had got there and we were playing so good, and that didn't stop for the rest of the season. I think we went 36-10 in our last 46 games. I wasn't there for the whole time, but that was our record for our last 46 games, which was absolutely amazing. And like what you talked about, winning it on the very last day of the season, 2 years in a row, not 1 year, but 2 years in a row. I think that might be why I'm bald now, because it was something that, just kind of going through that, but I wouldn't change it for the world. And it was absolutely amazing. It meant every single day you had to come ready and be prepared to go out there and help win a game. And that to me was the best part about it. Every game mattered. And it was like we would win, and I think it was the Giants that year that we kept going back and forth, and they wouldn't lose. We lose, they lose. We win, they win. And it was a pretty wild experience. And then to do it again in 2005, and then we lost in Game 7 of the NLCS, which was an amazing run. That was a great series. I think every team, every game was won by the home team against the Cardinals. And I just look back at that series. That could go down as one of the best 7-game series ever. And I was just blessed to be a part of it. But then in 2005, when we started out 15-30, and then all of a sudden we just turned it around. It was, again, winning it on the very last day of the season. I can't even explain to you like how hard. And like when I think back on it, it's one of those things that's a lot of fun to think back on, but when you're living it, it's probably not so much, because it's a little bit stressful. And it was more probably stressful, and I think Will could probably attest to this, is when you're watching. But when you're actually out there playing, it's like, okay, I've done this before, all the time. And, it's just, you just got to go out there and just don't get too far ahead of yourself. And I tell a lot of my kids, it's like, you got to live in the present. If you can't worry about what you did, you can't worry about what could happen. If you worry about what you're going to do in that moment, then I think you're good. And then it was actually really cool because, Brad, I got traded before Brad did, and then Brad got traded a year later, and then we both ended up meeting up in the World Series in Phillies and Rays, which was kind of a nice little run. And the year that Brad had that year was, I think he was perfect. And with the saves, 46 for 46, and it was just, I remember him out there on the mound. It was kind of a bittersweet, me losing, but definitely happy for my old teammate. So.
Well, thank y'all. This has been awesome. It's like hearing pitchers talk pitching is like hearing a guitarist talk guitar licks or something. So this has been fantastic. Thank y'all.
No problem.
Stephen, thank you so much. Charles P., if you are still with us, I know you wanted to ask something. So if you want to turn your camera on for us and ask your question. Charles P., if you're still there. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and move to Servando R. I know you've been patiently waiting to ask some questions. So if you wouldn't mind turning your camera on, or it's out already
Is it
on.
on?
So ask away. It is.
I look frozen on my end, so I'm sorry about that. But Dan, grew up in Houston. Astros have always been my team. Some of my earliest memories was watching you shake your glove every time when you came set. What was the purpose of that? Were you just trying to be consistent in not tipping off pitches, or was that just a mannerism of yours?
That's exactly what it was. Not tip off pitches, and it actually began because, is oddly enough, Brad Lidge. He had done some sort of, he was doing something where he was tipping his pitches in, I believe it was 05 or somewhere around there. I mean, and I might have done it a little bit prior, but then it was like when he was tipping pitches. And to me, if Brad, those couple of years that he had, like 04, and 04 when I got traded over there, I think he set a National League strikeout record with 150 something as a reliever, which was, it blew me away just how good he was. But he was tipping pitches, and then okay, so I'm like, if he can get hit, then in my mind, then I definitely could get hit so that's kind of how that whole thing started for me. I mean, I didn't expect to kind of go to where it went. And I mean, now that I think about it, I don't even know if I'd get a pitch in time for the shot clock. So
Yeah, that's right. I really wanted to ask Brad this question, but I recall exactly where I was at when Pujols hit that shot that's probably still going. What, if you know, why didn't we walk him? He was so hot that postseason. Do you know why?
I know there was, technically there was an open base in his third base, and I mean, when you got Brad Lidge on the mound, he throws 100 and he's got a 92-mile-an-hour slider. At the end of the day, he's gotten him out a bunch too, and as he threw that first pitch slider to him, and he kind of made him look a little stupid, but it's hard to make Albert Pujols look stupid more than once because he's obviously one of the greatest hitters to ever play this game. But I do remember thinking to myself, I'm like, don't give him anything to hit. I mean, and no disrespect to Reggie Sanders, who was on deck, but Albert Pujols.
He was a hoss too, though. He was a hoss.
Great too, but but okay, you're gonna pick your poison. It's like at the end of the day, it's like we go over pitching reports and stuff. It's like, who do you not want to beat you? And then if you're looking at the Cardinals lineup, right? Obviously, it's probably Albert Pujols. But at the end of the day, when you have your best reliever in the game to send your team to the World Series, I'll take my chance with him. But it just didn't quite make it down. Then
I get it.
So yeah.
Thank you for that.
No,
can I ask one more question to
easy,
Will?
Yeah.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate it. Hey, Will, big fan of yours as well. Always been a lifetime Astros fan. In 2017, what was the feel when Verlander was added on at the deadline there? What changed within the club because it seemed to me from the outside that really propelled the squad forward. Did y'all feel internally y'all needed another guy? How did that affect the team?
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you add a first ballot Hall of Famer, there was a lot of excitement. In 15, we had a couple of additions. We added Scott Kazmir, we added Gomez, we added Mike Fiers. But and that was kind of, we were at the infancy of this run that they're still on, to this day. But yeah, it was definitely a shot in the arm for sure, because that was a waiver wire deal. So the deadline had already come and passed, and we didn't really make any big moves. Now, we were a really good team on our way to winning 100 and something games that year. We're going to run away with the AL West and, try and make a postseason push. But we kind of felt like, man, we made these moves in 15, and now 17, we didn't make any, even though we were a better team. But yeah, when JV came on in 17, we only had a month left to play. So we probably got, 4 or 5 starts out of him that weren't really any, consequence to us winning the division or anything like that. But, his postseason resume is pretty darn good. He's got a lot of postseason experience. And so yeah, it was a definite jolt to us. No doubt about it.
And how many pitches do you throw? Because I recall watching you pitch, obviously, numerous times. You were a go-to guy, but it seems like you have 2 or 3 pitches. Is that so? 2 or 3 pitches?
Yeah, I was.
And what are they?
Well, I don't think I threw a changeup in the big leagues since like 2013 or something like that. So by the time I came over to Houston, I was a 2-pitch guy, and I've told many people this about my time in Houston, and the front office and Brent Strom especially is. They're very good at defining why you're a major league pitcher, and then they want you to do more of that. So when I first came over there, all they wanted me to do was throw more curveballs. I had a good curveball, had a lot of success with it, and I think I had been maybe like a year and a half of not giving up an extra base hit with it or something like that. So when I got there in 2015, they're like, hey, this changeup that you throw, like, you're not allowed, don't throw it no more. Just if you're going to throw an off-speed pitch, we want you to always throw your curveball. So, and then as each year, my curveball usage would go up. And then finally, I think in 2019, which was probably my best statistical year with Houston, it was my highest curveball usage that I'd ever had. So I finally did what they were asking me to do for 5 years, and sure enough, they were right. So, but yeah, just a cut fastball and a curveball, and that was it.
Well, thank y'all guys. This has been great. I appreciate y'all's time.
Yeah, man.
Servando, thank you so much. I know Corey JM has been patiently waiting as well. If you want to turn your camera on and ask your question.
Can you hear me? All right, I'll take my thing. There we go. Oh. Okay. All right, got it to unmute. What's going on, guys?
What's up, Corey?
Oh. Corey, you're cutting up there. Looks like we lost a picture. If you want to just put your question in the chat and then I can ask it for you. Not sure if you have bad signal where you are. All right, we'll wait for Corey there. But what do you guys think about this game so far? I mean, they're in the 5th right now, still scoreless. What are you guys thinking?
Like pitchers do, like we talked about earlier, these guys are just going out there and doing what they're supposed. I mean, they're opening day starters for a reason, right? So these guys are, that's what they do, and it's kind of fun to watch. I mean, I'd rather see a 0-0 game than a 10-9 game any day. But Chicago's looks like they got a little something here, but hopefully Valdez can get out of it right here. So we'll see. Maybe just hit him. I don't know.
Yeah, I think he hit him with a curveball right there. Yeah. Yeah. Andrew first to third right there. A little while ago, I was watching and I was going to be interesting to see it. And Frommer's just so good at getting weak contact in the infield, man, with that sinker that he has. Like, I know analytics they're not big on bringing the infield in, but he's the guy that, like, you could bring him in all day because you just don't get hard contact against him. So that was a good move, bringing Breggy in, getting Andrews out at home plate. So we'll see. I'm not sure if the lineup turns over right here. This could be a good matchup if this is Anderson coming up right here with the bases loaded, 2 outs. I'm not sure he's coming up.
That play Bregman made was not an easy play either.
No, it was not. It was not.
Made that play at home. I mean, that was I mean, he did a good job of, just catching the ball first, but he's pretty good at third base. So
yeah, Alex is one of the best throwing on the run third basemen in probably, him and Nolan Arenado are pretty special at that.
Yeah. All right, guys, it looks like Brenda B has a question. Brenda, if you could please put your camera on and ask your question. Oh, looks like your camera's already on. Oh, you're still muted, Brenda.
Can you hear me?
There you go.
Okay. Well, I think Brad and Roy answered that earlier, but about the new pitching change, the new rules, how do y'all feel about it? About the new change and the way that Dick Garcia, that he cannot do his baby rock, step two. I don't know how he calls that.
Yeah, no, I guess
the way he pitches.
Yeah, I hate that they actually had to take somebody's wife to make this happen. But I think we all kind of agreed that at the end of the day, when you get a starting pitcher that can go out there and get a pretty good rhythm going, strikes, getting on the mound, it's not only best for the starting pitcher, but it's best for the rest of the team. And if you watch a game and you'll go out there and throwing baseball is the hardest sport in my opinion of all sports. I mean, hard to hit a baseball, going 95 to 100, and then you're throwing a curve at 82, whatever it may be. But just to pitch and catch and throw, it's not an easy thing to do. So, and you get a guy out there that takes his time and throwing ball after ball or something, and then you get the infield or the outfield is just not ready to make a play. So I do think that on some level that this will be best for not just the pitcher, but for the game overall.
What do y'all miss playing for the Astros? I know y'all are retired or playing somewhere different, but do you miss playing here? I know I miss seeing y'all. I've been an Astros fan since early 80s, since Jeff Bagwell and all, and of course y'all and Roy and Brad, y'all. So, and of course my husband, he's back here sleeping, but he's a big Astros fan also. And how do you feel about Gurriel leaving us? I was seriously heartbroken about that.
Yeah, I think it was. My time in Houston was obviously very, very special. We had a lot of really good teams and a lot of really good people that were there and were involved. Still a lot of very close friends that I talk to and text and communicate with all the time. I'm sure it's the same with Dan. But yeah, my time in Houston, for me being from Louisiana, I had an aging grandmother at the time that couldn't really travel. She was able to watch all my games every night on TV. So that was really special for my kids and my family to be so close. I couldn't really ask for a better city to play in. And as far as Yuli goes, that one hurt my heart. I'm a big Yuli Gurriel fan. I think he's
same here.
He's a very underspoken piece of all the success that they've had there. But place them with a really good ball player. I mean, Abreu is his countryman and is also very, very highly respected in Cuba and is a really, really good ball player. So yeah, it's a shame, but hey, it happens to all of us.
How did you feel about Springer leaving? I know I got 1,000 questions up in my head. I never spoken to pitchers in my life. I played softball for Special Olympics. I used to play the easiest position, the catcher. So I didn't feel about Springer leaving over, I think it's 10 years ago or 3 years ago or so. I can't remember how long he left.
Yeah. No, I mean, free agency, it happens, it's just guys come and go. It's just the nature of the sport, of the business. So, George did a lot too. So wish him all the best. He's one of my favorites.
Yes, I'm here. So is my husband's. So, I've been a huge fan of yours for, I can't even say how many years since y'all played. I forget how many years you played in Houston, but y'all played for a long time here. But that y'all would come. I know y'all retired, but I wish y'all would come back and play. We need some more good pitchers again. We keep losing all of our good pitchers.
Brenda, thank you so much for your questions. Really, really appreciate it. We do want to move over to another question. I love this. Joey A. Actually, he's a VIP. So, Joey, if you want to get on camera, this. Joey A. If you're still on here. All right, I'll ask it. Do you, oh, did he get on there? No. Okay. He said, do you like what the Savannah Bananas are doing? Could you pull a dance off before a pitch?
I personally love what the Savannah Bananas are doing. I think they're great. It's a lot of fun. You know, I actually hope to someday go check them out. You know, I haven't had a chance to do that, but I think that'd be a lot of fun. And to answer the question, absolutely not. I don't think I could do what they do. I mean, it's impressive what some of the stuff that they pull off. I mean, I got to tip my hat to those guys. So.
Yeah, I was excited when Reddick actually went and did a little cameo with them last year. You know, he's a big WWE fan and, you know, playing a role and things like that. He was actually able kind of to mesh the two because, you know, Josh's never going to be a WWE superstar, but he was kind of able to kind of live that, you know, that dream of his over in Savannah. So, yeah, they're incredibly entertaining. I would love to bring my kids to a game. And anything that's going to bring more people into baseball is like, I'm all for it. And they definitely do because their platform crosses over into other boundaries that the normal baseball game doesn't. So it's pretty neat.
I love it. Now, the Savannah Bananas might have all the dance moves, but they don't have a World Series title, which the Astros do, obviously coming off a World Series championship. And we want to try and bring up that graphic that I had talked about earlier. If the Hang team wants to try pulling that up, maybe we can get it to work this time. As a reminder, Academy Sports and Outdoors is helping us put this call together. So they are helping fans relive the excitement with a special edition Astros Gold Collection gear that is available. There we go. You can see it right there. It is available at Academy Sports and Outdoors on April 1st. So you can make sure to stop by your local Academy store or shop online at academy.com. Again, the special edition Astros Gold Collection gear is available at your local Academy store. You can get it online. It all can be found beginning on April 1st. So I love that. And then, Will, I know you were part of the 2017 championship team. Do you think they can repeat this year?
Yeah, I mean it's a difficult thing to do for sure. But you know, the Astros obviously are used to winning. It's the culture there, so it's every time they come to the ballpark, you know, they're expecting to win. I think that's something that shouldn't be taken for granted. Just the amount of wins that they get in the regular season. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, with their pitching staff, obviously their lineup, adding Abreu, I think once Michael Brantley gets back, that'll be a really, really big boost to them. He's a pro's pro and a great guy, and he's a great clubhouse guy. So yeah, I mean, I don't see why not. It's hard. I mean, you know, you're talking a lot of these teams have added a lot of pieces. It seems like nowadays there's like a magnet for all the talented players kind of have made their way to a few teams. So once the postseason starts, anything can happen. But obviously, I like their chances as always.
Yeah, of course. Do you have that championship ring with you by chance?
I do. I mean, it's in my room. It's 20 steps away from here, so I could go grab it if you wanted me to.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to go ahead and do that. While you do that, we can have Corey JM try to ask his question again.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm sorry about that. I was driving through the countryside of Mississippi heading to this job site. So I lost service the moment you guys asked me to come on. So
No worries.
my question, thank you. My question, so, we have some pictures in the call, is so the WBC, I don't know if I'm sure you guys saw the story, the 21-year-old right-hander that struck out Soto, Rodriguez, and Devers. What are y'all's thoughts on the WBC giving these young guys opportunities like that, for this feel-good, like Cinderella story?
I think it's great. I mean, these kids are getting opportunities that they may never have gotten an opportunity because of this. And honestly, and that's the idea, is like, whenever you do get a chance, you got to try to do everything you can to put yourself in a position to win. And this kid did that, and it's exciting. I think it's absolutely great for the game. I really do. So, and I actually, really enjoyed watching the WBC. I thought it was a lot of fun. And honestly, I mean, if you told me it was going to end like it did, I'd call you a liar. But like, just, with Ohtani going up against Trout, I mean, all the joke of, oh, it's scripted, but I mean, how is that possible? And what an amazing run. And I think it just ended. And obviously I was hoping the USA would win, USA guy, but it was great for the game. That was awesome.
Awesome, guys. Thank you guys for letting me ask the question. I got to get to work. I just want to say go Cards, and I was hoping Yachty took it with Puerto Rico, baby. You guys have a good night.
Thank you so much, Corey. All right. Jeff G, it looks like he has a question. Jeff, you want to put your camera on for us? Jeff G, I see you're still with us. All right, we can hear some background noise, Jeff, if you want to ask your question. All right, we'll go back to Jeff in a little bit here. But Will, I see you got the ring back. If you want to show us.
Yeah. Sure. I'll put it close. Let me get a little light on here. Yeah, that's a good, really, really pretty. I haven't taken it out of my safe very often. So, but yeah, it's a beautiful ring. Beautiful ring. They did a great job designing this thing. So pretty cool. I tell you what's crazy is the replicas are like hard to even tell. The ones they give away at the stadium sometimes. I'm sure they'll do it this year for the 2022 championship. But yeah, it's great. It's great.
I love it. What were your initial thoughts when you got that first ring? Was it kind of surreal?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's something you dream about, it's really kind of funny because you get the ring so far after winning the World Series. I'm not sure what happened. I missed the beginning of the game. I'm assuming the Astros got their rings today for opening day. It's why they're wearing the gold unis and things like that. But yeah, I mean, you win it in, October, November, and then all these months go by, spring training, and then you show up for opening day and you're like, oh man, we get our rings today, so it kind of back all of that, that emotion and, stuff that happened the year before, because you're really focused on the game that day. It's opening day. It has all of its own emotions and things you have to get ready for. But yeah, that was really special. And, obviously it's something that I cherish. I wish I wore it more. I don't know. They're not the most comfortable things in the world to wear. And, but it's a fun thing to pull out and show family and friends whenever they want to see it.
That's awesome. Do you keep it like in a safe or anything, or where do you put it?
Yeah, I have a safe. I've got a few rings over the years, state championship ring, a Cape Cod championship ring, American League championship ring from 2019, this one. So I have a few. It's neat to keep them around, but yeah, this one's by far, obviously, the favorite.
Yeah, of course, of course. All right, so Jeff G, he couldn't join us on camera, but his question was, what was the most intimidating park to pitch in?
For me, I don't know. Old Yankee Stadium had a different kind of feel to it. Um, just going there. I mean, I feel like there's so much history there, and I loved it on some level, but then at the same time, you had to kind of bring your A game because that was there was just something about that. There was an ear to it that I don't know how to explain it, but there was I don't know, maybe ghosts or something in there. Just kind of the joke, but there was you just had to go out there and never mind the crowd and everything like that. You had to go up against a pretty darn good lineup. So back Jeter and those guys those days, and it was impressive. So
Yeah, I would kind of piggyback that. Not old Yankee Stadium, new Yankee Stadium, but I think that pitching in that place as often as I did in the postseason, it seemed like I pitched every single game that we ever played there, and had failures, had successes there. Yeah, when that place kind of gets rocking and rolling and they're scoring runs late in games, it's a different thing. It's got a little danger to it. It's just it's hard to explain. Dodger Stadium can get that way a little bit. But yeah, Yankee Stadium is it's kind of a different thing whenever it's turned on. And for the postseason, it definitely gets turned on.
Awesome. 7G. I see that you had a question if you want to come on camera.
Hi,
And real
it's me
quickly, guys,
again.
I want to
I
let you know. Oh, sorry. I just want to let everybody know that we have about 10 minutes left on the call. So if you want to get those questions in, make sure to put them in the chat. So Stefan, ask away.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for letting me get one more question. And Will, I have a question for you. I believe it was 2016 that you made the All-Star team. I think you were the only Astro to make the All-Star game that year. Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure it was 2016. But I'm just curious what that experience was like, because you also kind of brought in like a tense situation from what I remember. If you have memories of that experience and what it felt like to become an All-Star like that.
Yeah, it was me. It was me and Altuve. Me and Jose were there together that year. But yeah, it was one of the greatest memories of my life. Besides family things, of course. But that All-Star game was really special. I kind of the year before I was lucky to make the team in 2015. A guy pulls his hamstring a week to go, so I get on the team and then pitch well enough to stay and then kind of carved out a little niche for myself in Houston, and then made the All-Star team in 2016 and wasn't expecting to pitch. I wasn't on the list of pitchers that day. They kind of map it out of who's going to throw what inning, and there's a lot of starters, and the Yankees relievers were going to throw, and so there was a few of us that kind of were just kind of hanging out. And if a guy got in trouble, and that game was actually really boring. It was a couple of home runs early, and then all these bullpen guys throwing 100 came in there and were mowing everybody down on both sides. And Andrew Miller got in trouble, and I remember they called down. It was the Royals staff was the coaching staff. I don't remember the bullpen coach's name, but I wasn't expecting to get in, and it was like, hey, man, how fast can you get ready? And I got on the mound and threw maybe 4 or 5 pitches with the catcher standing up, and they called back down and were like, are you ready? I said, dude, I'm ready. Just let me get in this game. I don't care. And so it was a great, moment for me. Bases loaded and 2 outs. Got to face Diaz, who I eventually played with in Houston, and got a strikeout. And yeah, it was a great moment, So here's actually a funny story with that. So after the All-Star game, you go back in, you shower up, you get your suits on or whatever, and somebody from the PR team from Major League Baseball comes in the clubhouse. They're like, hey, Will, they want you on the field. And I'm like, man, I think I just won the MVP. It's like, because there was nothing exciting that happened in the game, So I'm jacked up and got my suit on. I'm walking out there, and I walk out the tunnel, and there's like not a soul left in the stadium. and it was just for some stupid interview. But yeah, I got deked pretty hard by the people.
Oh, that's incredible. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Stefan. I want to get in one more trivia question. So again, all these trivia questions are presented by Academy Sports and Outdoors, and the winner of this will be contacted by our Hang support team. So the question is, which pitcher on today's Hang threw an immaculate inning while with the Astros? Is it A, Brad Lidge, B, Will Harris, C, Roy Oswalt, D, Dan Wheeler? The winner of this question will get a $100 Academy gift card. It looks just like this. Again, the question is, which pitcher on today's Hang threw an immaculate inning while with the Astros? A, Brad Lidge, B, Will Harris, C, Roy Oswalt, or D, Dan Wheeler? Oh, it looks like Ron M., you are the winner. So congrats, Ron. And then I also know that Ron had a question to ask. You are a VIP, so if you want to turn your camera on so we can see you.
Actually, that was Rich W's question. He's got God, the kid must be freaking 6 foot tall, amazing, and is a pitcher for a high school team. And he was curious, what kind of advice do you have for a young high school pitcher?
For me, high school, to me, I think high school, you just want to just kind of trust the process. I would make sure that, not to get too far ahead of yourself, just, trust, what, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but, not to get too worked up with how you do, right? Really focus on the small things, mechanical work and stuff like that. And, I don't know. I mean, that's the best I could offer. I try not to make it too hard for the high school kids. Just try to keep it really simple and trust your mechanics and trust your stuff and go out there and pitch.
Yeah, for me, it would be realizing that you're not going to be the same player you are your freshman year to your sophomore year to your junior year. Your body's growing, you're getting stronger. So I remember I heard Leiter talk about his son, who was a first rounder, like maybe number 1 or number 2 overall pick out of Vanderbilt a couple of years ago. And he always talked about how he wasn't even close to being the best player on his high school team, but every year he just seemed to get a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better. And he kind of just stayed the course and was consistent with what he wanted to do and his preparation and things like that. And so because of that, it's, he goes to college and he got a little bit better. And so I think, just not getting wrapped up in necessarily where you're at as a high school player, because you're nowhere near a finished product, and just, being consistent with your work ethic, because that's the most important.
Thanks. That's awesome. Sorry to steal your question, Rich. My bad.
Thank you, Ron and Rich. And then we want to end on one final question. Tommy, if you want to turn your camera on for us.
Yeah. Hey, guys. First of all, this has been really fun. Thanks to Hang, thanks to Academy. I was wondering, we're obviously all chilling here. I was wondering, and I should have asked this when Brad was here too, but what's it like in the bullpen where, for 5 or 6 or 7 innings, depending on how the starter's doing, you're kind of just hanging around and chilling. And then, bullpen coach calls and is like, hey, get up, warm up. But like, what happens in those bullpens? Like, do you become really close with the other relievers on that team just because for, 70% of every game, you're just sitting there in the outfield watching the game, just chatting? Or what's it like in those bullpens?
To me, those are the days that I miss the most. Just hanging out with the bullpen guys. We were lucky in Houston. We had a good group of guys, and that was led by Russ Springer, and we did pretty much everything together. We went to lunch together. It was a standing on the road. We had a 12 o'clock. If you want to go eat with us, and most every day, every bullpen guy was there, except if their wife or somebody was in town. But we would go work out together. We go to the field together, and we were really a close knit group, which I think that's what, made us so good. Cause I mean, we generally cared about each other. And, for the first 4 or 5 innings, we'd mess around with each other, keep it light and try to stay as relaxed as possible. I mean, I think we had a little game that we would try to, flick pumpkin seeds into like the irrigation, little hole out there. So it was, just to kind of not get too serious. But then when it hit a certain time in the game, that's when we had to kind of flick the switch and say, okay, because everyone has a role, so you kind of expect to pitch when you expect to pitch, and but after that, you just want to just be there to support and help, and make sure that everyone's ready to go.
Yeah, I completely agree with all of that. I mean, every bullpen I've ever been in, you kind of are your own little, group. You're not separated from everybody else, but because you spend so much time, so much downtime, you stretch before everybody else a lot of days, you condition before, on your own and together. And so there's relationships that are just natural that occur. And, it's keep it light, everybody down the bullpen, you're keeping it light, you're focused. I think bullpen relievers have like this weird superpower where you can joke around and still you could probably account for every pitch that was thrown during the game and how a guy got out. And it just became like a second nature thing that I could talk about something had nothing to do with baseball and yet still know that, Cano swung at that 0-2 curveball in the dirt. It just was one of those things that became just second nature to all of us. And the relationships down there, obviously, it's the same thing with Dan. He still talks to all these guys on a probably pretty consistent basis and text them. And yeah, it was great times all the way around.
I love it. Will and Dan, thank you so much for joining us tonight for our hang call. We had so much fun with you guys, and hopefully you guys had some fun with all the fans and their questions as well. We also want to thank Academy Sports and Outdoors for making this event possible, of course, from sports gear, outdoor furniture, and grills to hunting and fishing equipment. Make sure to stop by your local Academy this spring for everything you need to have more fun doing the things you love. And of course, we've got some upcoming hangs as well. Do not forget, we'll be hanging tomorrow night with several college hoops and WNBA stars for the Iowa and South Carolina game. So make sure to go to let'shang.live to get your free tickets today. Will and Dan, thank you again for everything, you guys.
All right. Thank y'all.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
You too.